horse, they don't get bored. Horses get bored. A lot of sport horse people, they should have to notice that they get bored going to the same arena every day. And when you cross train your racehorse, and it depends on the racehorse. Some racehorses have a lot of strength of character. They can take that kind of 6 day away a week, going to the same place and drilling them the same routine. But most of them can't. Since I'm still building the fundamentals on this racehorse, a racehorse really isn't a racehorse until at least their first, probably second race. Then they know. They already know now. You set the tone. They know why they're going to the track. They know why they're going to the paddock. But as such, she really doesn't know. Her instincts are good, though. Now you can see her put herself in a nice frame, and her playing with her head is still the young, feeling good muscles. And as she voluntarily walks, she's listening more to her body, and subsequently then I can talk to her more of where I want her body to go. As she feels good, then I just ask her for forward and keeping her balance through her body. And as soon as I can, and she's over her little self-exercise there, which after lots of practice, you know when to ask for the next thing before they're even finished with the thing that they're doing. That goes back to when a hind leg is on the ground, that movement is finished. It's when the hind leg is in the air that the horse isn't finished. So you really talk to the horse when one or the other hind legs are already on the ground. You don't fight with them in mid-air. They're in charge when they're in the air. This means that when the hind leg is down on the ground before it pushes off again, the movement's finished. That particular movement's finished. A lot of people fight horses from the front end, I guess because they're riding the front end. I ride from the hind end. Later on, as she gets more developed and focused, even in the saddle when I'm galloping her, I'll use in the air as all 4 feet are off the ground in that suspension of the gallop before they land again from the hind end. I might even use the weight in my stirrups to bring that suspension even higher, meaning I'm pressing down in the stirrup and going up a little bit in the air with her, and she can feel that. Horses can feel, and it motivates the suspension to be even higher. A lot of the good riders in Europe do this in the Passage and Piaffe, so they can illuminate more suspension in the Piaffe and Passage, or more suspension in the changes in ones, etc. So the principles remain the same, whether it be a racehorse, dressage horse, or for that matter, softening a jumper in between a jump so that you're not getting in their face. You're talking to the body. And so when they have a true mouth on them, and because she's a true mouth, meaning I can talk with a direct, indirect, passive rein, half fault, and half faults don't mean all the time scooping, and it's talking when they have a mouth that is connected with their motor skills from behind. You're inevitably talking to the hind leg, not the front end, because they're one unit. And as this filly gets more forward this week, you'll see less of the counter bending in a lot of areas, and it should be completely connected to my outside hand, whether by the rate of the rein or direct. I'm talking to that outside hind. Because she's been doing all these wonderful forward voluntary, if you will, upper level dressage movements, and they go by fast because she's not doing them like, the Spanish riding school, but inevitably the physics are the same. It has gone to the core muscles. So I'll go back again and say the typical industry standards is to take a filly like this out, because she's broken everything and she's been on the track galloping before. They go around for at least a couple days, and then they start settling, because it took those, it depends on the horse, 1 to 3 days of softening, because they start from the outside muscles and then go to the inside muscles. And thus I'm doing the inside core muscles, and then I go to the outside muscles. You'll see that because of all this, she's going to be settling down and going to a training level frame, if you want to put it that way, but a really soft frame in a working walk. Still, when she volunteers this monster position, I'm doing an a la, I don't know, you would say, let's see, I have about 2, maybe 3 dressage movements in this, what she's doing, stepping this far under. And part of it's like a half pass, part of it's shoulder in, and part of it's haunches out. But she still has to demonstratively bring that right hind in all 4 feet equal in the vertebrae of her back, parallel with the ground, and her haunches square, and her tail in the middle, not dropping the right hip. That's why I have to bring the nose up. She's a young horse, and if I were to do it the academia way of on the bit, what they call it on the bit, she wouldn't be able to balance her haunches. She's not strong enough, and also she's doesn't have the posture of a Grand Prix horse. So I'm using the tools of upper level dressage exercises. I wouldn't say movements, even though they've been made into that. Exercises to reach those muscle groups and to reach her mind. Because when she feels these, she gets very, very soft, and now and regulates self-balance, and now I can start training her at the stage she should be. So I don't pound her legs with the weight on the back, scooping out of the deepness of a track, and have all the superficial muscles being talked to, which are usually on a horse like this would be fast twitch muscles, which is the opposite of what you want to do when you gallop. You want to use the slow, long twitch, deep muscles, and you want them soft over the top line through the pole and breathing in that rhythm, etc., etc. So I guess she's still fooling around. She should be walking by now. There we go. See the monster steps behind? And it's not just crossing over, so don't get it mixed up with leg gilding. Leg gilding is not an exercise. It's just showing a horse the way to approach 2-track movements. Leg gild by itself, I've seen ruin a lot of groundwork to young horses, because inevitably they're separating themselves from the back to the shoulder part. It's just, leg gild is just a schooling thing, like handwriting is to someone learning to write the letters of the alphabet. It isn't a formal exercise. It's just a mental thing of coming off the outside leg. So for those of you who have young horses, once they understand a leg gild, do not practice it, because they're going to break from the neck forward, and then you've lost the the unit that you want from the hind leg pushing off up and through to the pole to your hand. This is more of an exercise where she has to step under with that inside hind and push off, and with the outside hind, which is her left hind at the immediate moment, she has to sustain it and come way out behind. And that's quite a muscle grouping right there. Almost like a splits kind of thing if you see that outside leg in that position. And that's more or less what the Renouvers and Travers were doing. They were enunciating a posture so that they could really go to those muscle groupings to strengthen and get the suspension coming from that. Because from the Travers and Renouvers, you have the bend through the rib ultimately, and the horse is going into your inside or outside hand with that power takeoff from whichever hind leg is on the outside, whether it be haunches in or haunches out. And when they have to step that deeply in that posture, it gives first of all, the forehand a whole new value, and it gives you the exercise to become the passage. In this racehorse's case, it's even though I rock and roll it, jazz it, however you like, it gives her forearm and her shoulder freedom, even though now she's lengthening her head. If I had gone in this training session and just gone around and around until she wore herself out so she could finally use that part of her shoulder, forearm, neck to pull, lengthening of head, it would have been totally asinine, actually, because again, she's mind over matter. She's short coupled, and on the big galoofy horses you can get away with it more, but on a short coupled horse it can be devastating, especially when they don't get tired. Now she's doing what I wanted her to do immediately, but because she's about halfway fit to a race, she and had only been walked, and we've had a couple days of training now, she is starting to use all the muscles together, the core muscles and the outside muscles, because if she was just using the outside muscles, we wouldn't have this posture. And inevitably, she's not sweaty. She hasn't, because if they do go out and use superficial muscles, they're banging the ground with their short twitch, quick twitch muscles. Now she's using herself over the ground, soft, suspended. The back is swinging. You can see it right through her tail there. That tail would not be swinging like that if she was on the quick twitch muscles that ordinarily you'd start out on going straight to the racetrack. So now in the next several days, I'll be working towards this, and the horse is going to tell me from one day to the next how much of all that exuberant a la caprioles, ballatods, levades, reinback, all those jazzed up things that she used, because as soon as those core muscles start healing, she's going to enunciate her posture again. But as you go along and she keeps in training on a daily basis, you sort of marry the core muscles with the outside muscles, and this is a real important key, so you don't go too far. If you go too far, you can make them sour because they get sore, and inevitably, if you go too far, she's used the core muscles, and now only with the superficial muscles. If I were to keep going in those demonstrative positions that she volunteered, then I would be breaking down, perhaps injuring, giving her a curb on her hock, or too much weight on the front and have heat in the ankles. So immediately when your horse gives a frame like this, it's a resting pose.